The silver ships appeared without warning on a Tuesday morning. They materialized at the edge of the solar system, like ghosts becoming solid, their hulls reflecting the distant sun. There were hundreds of them, each one larger than Earth's biggest space station. The world stopped breathing. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center, watching the screens fill with data. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago. Around him, officers spoke in urgent whispers, their faces pale. Nobody had expected this. Humanity had been alone in the universe for so long that most people had stopped believing in aliens at all. The message came 12 hours after the ships arrived. It broadcast on every frequency, in every language Earth had ever spoken. The voice was calm, almost bored. Primitive species of the third planet. You have entered the awareness of the Kethran Empire. We have conquered 47 star systems across 3,000 years. Your civilization is now presented with a choice. Surrender unconditionally within 72 hours. Accept our rule. You will be absorbed into the empire as a labor class. Resist, and your cities will burn from orbit. Your oceans will boil. Your species will serve as an example to others who might consider defiance. The transmission ended. The silver ships waited. The world erupted into chaos. The United Earth Council met in emergency session. Delegates shouted at each other across the chamber. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for resistance. A few simply wept. Marcus Chen listened to them argue through his earpiece while he walked through the archive levels beneath the command center. He had clearance to go anywhere, see anything. Right now, he needed to see something that had been buried for 50 years. The old man who guarded the deep archives looked surprised to see an admiral at this hour. He checked Chen's credentials 3 times before unlocking the vault. Inside, the air smelled like dust and old metal. Chen found what he was looking for in a gray file box marked Project Midnight. Eyes only. End quote. End quote. Unquote. The documents inside were older than Chen himself. They detailed a plan that had been developed decades ago, back when Earth first detected faint radio signals from deep space. Signals that suggested intelligence. Signals that suggested war. A small group of scientists and military leaders had asked a simple question. What if someone comes, and they're not friendly? Project Midnight was the answer. It was ambitious. It was expensive. It was absolutely secret. And, according to these files, it had been fully operational for 30 years. Chen read through the night. By morning, he understood. Earth's visible military had always been a lie. The ships that orbited the planet, the bases on Mars and Luna, the defense satellites everyone could see. They were theater. The real military had been built in the darkness beyond Neptune, where no one looked, where nothing lived. Thousands of automated warships, powered down, invisible, waiting for a signal that everyone hoped would never come. The 72-hour countdown continued. On Earth, people packed highways trying to flee cities. Others raided stores for supplies. Religious leaders held prayer vigils. Scientists appeared on news programs, explaining calmly that humanity had no chance against a civilization that could cross the stars. The Kethran ambassador, a tall figure in silver armor, appeared in a second transmission. He walked through the hologram of a human city, gesturing at buildings and people. "We understand you are afraid," he said. His voice was almost kind. "This is natural, but understand that resistance is illogical. We have destroyed species more advanced than yours. We have burned worlds that resisted. Surrender is not shameful. It is survival." The United Earth Council took a vote. 15 delegates voted to surrender. 18 voted to resist. 3 abstained. The decision was made. Admiral Chen stood before the Global Defense Network, his hand hovering over a console that had waited 50 years to be used. Around him, officers watched in silence. They didn't know what Project Midnight was. They only knew that Chen had requested absolute authority for the next 72 hours. And somehow, impossibly, the council had granted it. "Send our response," Chen said quietly. The transmission was short. One word, in every language the Kethran had used to address humanity. "No." On the Kethran flagship, War Commander Thelzahn watched the response with amusement. He had conquered 11 worlds personally. He had seen this defiance before. It always ended the same way. He turned to his tactical officer. "Move the fleet into bombardment positions. Target their military installations first. Let them watch their defenses die before we touch their cities." Sometimes witnessing their own helplessness convinces the survivors to be more cooperative. The silver ships began moving, graceful and terrible, toward Earth. Their weapons powered up, charging energy that could crack continents. The war commander composed his after-action report in his mind. This would be a simple conquest. Textbook. The primitive humans would learn what every other species had learned. The Kethran Empire could not be defied. Admiral Chen typed a single encrypted command into his console. It was just 8 characters long, a code that traveled faster than light through quantum-entangled communication nodes. The message reached the Kuiper Belt in microseconds. It reached the Oort cloud. It reached the darkness, beyond where humanity's true strength had slept for 30 years. "Release the hounds," the command read. Deep in the black, in the cold beyond cold, thousands of ships began to wake up. Their systems initialized. Their weapons armed. Their engines, designed to emit no heat signature, no radiation, nothing that could be detected, hummed to life. The Midnight Armada opened its eyes. And it was hungry. War Commander Thelzahn studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The human defensive positions were exactly where his scouts had predicted. Orbital platforms, moon bases, a scattered fleet of perhaps 200 vessels trying to form a protective screen around their homeworld. It was almost sad how predictable they were. "All ships, begin bombardment," he ordered. "Focus fire on Grid 7. Destroy their command satellites." The Kethran fleet opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy crossed the void, beautiful and deadly. The first human satellites exploded in silence, blooming into clouds of debris. More followed. The human ships tried to return fire, but their weapons were primitive, easily deflected by Kethran shields. "Their largest warship is breaking formation," his tactical officer reported. "It's trying to ram the 7th wing." Thelzahn made a dismissive gesture. "Let it. The collision will demoralize the rest." He watched the human ship accelerate, its crew no doubt screaming prayers to whatever gods they believed in. It struck a Kethran destroyer, and both ships vanished in a flash of light. "Suicide tactics," Thelzahn murmured. "They're already desperate. This will be over within hours." In the Earth Defense Command Center, Admiral Chen watched his ships die and felt nothing. It was all according to plan. Every sacrifice was calculated. Every loss was acceptable. The visible fleet had only one job: make the Kethran believe they were winning. "Sir, we've lost Battle Group 3, an officer reported, her voice shaking. "The lunar bases are gone. They're pushing through our lines." "Good," Chen said quietly. The officer stared at him. Chen didn't explain. He was watching a different display, one that showed nothing but empty space beyond Neptune. His fingers drummed on the console. The Midnight Armada had been humanity's greatest secret and greatest gamble. 50 years ago, scientists had detected signals from deep space. Not messages, battle transmissions. Energy signatures from weapons that made Earth's nukes look like firecrackers. And they had realized something terrifying. Humanity was not alone, and their neighbors were not peaceful. A secret council had formed. They asked a simple question: if someone comes to conquer us, how do we survive? The answer, couldn't be conventional. Any military that Earth built openly would just be a target. They needed something else. Something hidden. So they built a shadow fleet. Using automated construction stations beyond the edge of the solar system, powered by fusion reactors that could run for decades in standby mode. Ships designed with one purpose: to kill anything that threatened Earth. No crew to feed. No life support to maintain. Just weapons, engines, and computers smart enough to fight, and they had studied every signal they could detect. Years of analysis. Patterns in the energy signatures. Frequencies of the transmissions. They had built a profile of likely enemy technology, and they had designed every midnight ship to exploit the weaknesses they predicted. Chen had spent the last 3 days hoping those predictions were correct. Now he would find out. His console chimed. A message from the Kuiper Belt. Armada online. Enemy sensors blind to our approach. Initiating jump sequence. Chen allowed himself a small smile. Let's see how they handle a surprise. The Kethran fleet continued its methodical destruction of human defenses. War Commander Thelzon was already composing his victory message to the Imperial Council. The humans had fought with spirit. But spirit meant nothing against superior technology. He would recommend allowing some of them to live. Good laborers were always useful. War Commander, his sensor officer said suddenly. I'm detecting spatial distortions. Multiple points within our formation. Thelzon frowned. Distortions? What kind? I don't know. They're not using standard jump drive signatures. It's like space is just folding. Sir, something's appearing inside our defensive perimeter. The first midnight ship materialized 300 meters from the Kethran flagship, then another, then 10, then 100. They appeared in the spaces between the Kethran vessels, emerging from calculated micro-jumps that put them at perfect firing range. The midnight ships were black. Not painted black, but coated in materials that absorbed every wavelength of light, every sensor pulse, every method of detection the Kethran possessed. They were smaller than the silver ships, sleeker, covered in weapons that looked wrong, asymmetric, brutal, designed by something that cared only about killing efficiently. Thelzon's screens exploded with alerts. Shields up! All ships! Evasive maneuvers! The Midnight Armada opened fire. Their weapons weren't energy beams. They were kinetic accelerators, firing projectiles at relativistic speeds, swarms of guided missiles that moved in patterns no AI should be able to calculate. Cyber warfare packages that struck the Kethran computer systems, like viruses, turning ships against their own fleet. A Kethran destroyer exploded. Then another. The beautiful silver fleet became chaos. Ships collided trying to evade. Others fired blindly, hitting their own allies. The midnight ships moved through them, like sharks, through a school of fish. Each attack, perfectly calculated. No movement wasted. How are they doing this? Thelzon shouted. Where did they come from? His tactical officer's face was pale. War Commander. They're broadcasting something. Audio on all frequencies. A voice filled the Kethran command deck. It was calm, almost mechanical. Attention Kethran forces. You are now engaged with the Midnight Armada of the United Earth Defense. Your sensor technology operates on predictable frequencies. Your shields are optimized against energy weapons. Your tactical computers use decision trees we mapped from your own transmissions 50 years ago. You have entered a kill box designed specifically for you. You will now surrender your vessels, or you will die. You have 30 seconds to decide. Thelzon's hands trembled. In 3,000 years, the Kethran Empire had never received an ultimatum. They delivered them. He looked at his displays. Half his fleet was already gone. The black ships were everywhere. Impossible to target. Impossible to escape. Send a distress signal to the homeworld, he whispered. Tell them. Tell them we found something we don't understand. The transmission never made it out. A midnight ship positioned itself above the flagship and released a pulse that fried every communication system within 1,000 kilometers. The last thing War Commander Thelzahn saw was his own screens going dark. And in the reflection, his terrified face staring back at him. On Earth, people watched their screens in stunned silence. The silver ships that had seemed so invincible were falling like leaves. The battle that should have been humanity's extinction was becoming something else entirely. Admiral Chen stood in the command center and allowed himself one deep breath. Phase 1 was complete. The Midnight Armada had proven itself. The Kethran fleet was neutralized. Now came the hard part. Showing the galaxy what happened when you threatened humanity, and making sure that lesson was never forgotten. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, not a single Kethran ship had escaped. 347 vessels of the Imperial fleet hung dead in space, their crews alive but powerless, their systems locked down by human cyber warfare. The Midnight Armada surrounded them in a sphere of black death, weapons still hot, waiting. Admiral Chen walked through the captured Kethran flagship, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. Emergency lights cast everything in red. Kethran soldiers sat with their hands behind their heads, guarded by human marines in power armor. They looked confused, beaten, afraid. War Commander Thelzahn was brought to what had been his own command deck. He was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with pale blue skin and eyes like golden coins. He stared at Chen with something between hatred and disbelief. "You were supposed to be primitives," Thelzahn said. His translator rendered his voice as cultured, educated. "Our scouts observed you for months. You barely had faster-than-light travel. Your weapons were crude. How did you hide this fleet? How did you know how to fight us?" Chen studied the alien commander. "You're not the first species to threaten Earth. You're just the first to arrive. We've been listening to the galaxy for a long time. We heard your wars. We learned from them. Impossible. We use quantum-encrypted communications. Our military channels can't be intercepted." "Everything can be intercepted if you're patient enough," Chen said. "We had 50 years to study you. We reverse-engineered your technology from the signals you thought were secure. We built weapons designed specifically to kill Kethran ships. You never had a chance." Thelzahn laughed bitterly. "Then why not destroy us? Why take prisoners? We would not have shown you such mercy." Chen's expression didn't change. "We're not keeping you as prisoners. We're keeping you as insurance. And as evidence." Over the next 3 days, human engineers tore apart the captured Kethran vessels. They extracted communication systems, navigation computers, star charts, diplomatic archives. The Kethran had kept meticulous records of their empire. Every conquered world, every subjugated species, every military installation. Chen stood in the analysis center, watching data compile. His chief intelligence officer, Commander Sarah Park, pointed to the holographic display. "Sir, we've mapped the entire Kethran Empire, 218 worlds, 47 conquered species. Their military is spread across 73 star systems. Weaknesses?" Chen asked. "Plenty. They're overextended. Their supply lines are predictable. And here's the interesting part. They've been using the same tactical doctrines for centuries. They've never needed to innovate because no one's ever seriously challenged them." "Good. Send this data to the Council." "All of it." Park hesitated. "Sir, some of the Council members are already uncomfortable with how the battle went. If we show them we can strike anywhere in Kethran space, they might think we're planning an invasion." "We're not planning an invasion," Chen said quietly. "We're planning deterrence." The transmission was sent to the Kethran homeworld using their own communication technology. It was broadcast on every official channel, impossible to ignore. The message was simple and terrifying. A hologram appeared in the Imperial Council chambers on Kethra Prime. It showed Admiral Chen standing against a backdrop of stars. Behind him, barely visible in the darkness, hundreds of black ships waited. People of the Kethran Empire, Chen began. Your fleet came to Earth and demanded our surrender. We refused. Your war commander Thelzan attempted to bombard our world. We stopped him. Your ships are now in our possession. Your crews are alive and will be returned to you unharmed. But first, we want to show you something. The hologram changed. It displayed a Kethran military starbase, rendered in perfect detail. Then another. Then a shipyard. Then a command center. One by one, hundreds of military installations appeared, each with precise coordinates, defensive capabilities, patrol schedules. This is everything. Chen continued. Every military asset your empire possesses. Every weakness. Every supply route. Every secret you thought was safe. We know where you are. Vulnerable. We know how to hurt you. And we are showing you this for one reason, so you understand what happens if you threaten Earth again. The display changed again. This time, it showed a simulation. Midnight ships appearing inside Kethran systems. Installations exploding. Supply lines severed. The entire military infrastructure of an empire collapsing within weeks. We don't want your worlds, Chen said. We don't want your resources. We don't want your people as slaves or servants. We just want to be left alone. So here is our offer. We return your captured personnel. You leave our space forever. You never contact Earth again. And in exchange, we won't do this. The simulation played again. Terrible and precise. We're not asking for surrender. We're offering you a chance to walk away. You have 72 hours to decide. The transmission ended. Across the Kethran homeworld, citizens watched in horror. The Imperial Council met in emergency session. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others argued for peace. The debate raged for hours. High Chancellor Vexthal, leader of the Empire, watched the simulation replay for the dozenth time. He had lived for 300 years. He had overseen dozens of conquests. Never, in all that time, had he felt afraid. Now, his hands shook as he touched the controls. Get me every military commander, he ordered. I want to know if this is possible. Can they actually do what they're showing us? The response came within hours. Every military analyst confirmed the same thing. Yes, the humans had perfectly mapped Kethran defenses. The attack simulation was not only possible, but likely to succeed. The Empire's military was designed to project force outward, not defend against an enemy that could appear anywhere, knew all their secrets, and fought with a ruthlessness the Kethran had never encountered. On Earth, Admiral Chen stood before the United Earth Council and faced their questions. A delegate from Europa, a woman named Helena Vasquez, confronted him directly. Admiral, some of those captured Kethran crew members claim they were subjected to psychological torture. That your ships broadcast sounds and images designed to break their will to fight. Is this true? Chen nodded slowly. Yes. We used psychological warfare. We analyzed Kethran biology and created stimuli that would cause maximum fear and disorientation. We wanted them to surrender quickly to minimize casualties on both sides. That's a war crime, Vasquez said. We have treaties about treatment of combatants. We have treaties with humans, Chen replied. These were not humans. They came to exterminate us. I used every tool available to stop them. If you want to court-martial me, you're welcome to try. But first, you should ask the 6 billion people on Earth if they'd rather I fought clean and lost, or fought dirty and won. The council chamber fell silent. Chen wasn't wrong. The people of Earth were celebrating their survival. Parades filled the streets. Children waved flags. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. But some people, like Vasquez, wondered at what cost. The Midnight Armada had been efficient, brutal, perfectly designed to kill. What did it say about humanity that they had built such a thing? That they had kept it secret for 50 years? That when the moment came, they used it without hesitation? Chen returned to his office and found a message waiting. It was from the Kethran homeworld. A simple text transmission. We accept your terms. The fleet will be returned. We will leave your space. We ask only that this information be kept between our peoples. If word spreads that we were defeated so easily, other species may rebel. Chen read it twice. Then he began composing his response. But before he could finish, another alert came through. New signals from deep space. Not Kethran. Something else. Other species, other civilizations, had detected the battle. The galaxy was watching. And humanity had just announced itself in the loudest way possible. The first alien species to contact Earth after the battle was the Mirathi. They appeared 3 weeks later, their small diplomatic vessel broadcasting peaceful intentions from beyond the moon. They were insect-like, their bodies covered in iridescent shells, speaking through translation devices in soft, clicking voices. Their ambassador, whose name translated as Whisper of Rain, stood in the United Earth Council chambers and told a story that made everyone uncomfortable. We were the 15th species the Kethran conquered, Whisper of Rain said. 400 years ago. We resisted for 12 days. They burned our capital cities, killed half our population. The survivors were given a choice. Serve or die. We chose to serve. We've been building their ships, growing their food, mining their asteroids, ever since. And now you've shown that they can be beaten. Do you understand what this means? Admiral Chen, sitting in the observer section, felt the weight of those words. Around him, council delegates shifted uncomfortably. It means there will be rebellions. Whisper of Rain continued. Across the Kethran Empire, species that have suffered for centuries will rise up. There will be chaos. War. Millions will die. And it will be because you showed them it was possible to win. Councillor Vasquez leaned forward. Are you saying we should have surrendered? Let them conquer us? No, the Mirathi ambassador said. I'm saying that freedom is never simple, and neither is the responsibility that comes with it. Over the following months, more species made contact. The galaxy, it turned out, was crowded. Dozens of civilizations had been watching the Kethran Empire, too afraid to challenge it, surviving by staying hidden or submitting. Now they all wanted to know the same thing. Would humanity help them? Chen found himself giving the same answer over and over. We defended Earth. We're not galactic liberators. We're not conquerors. We just want to survive. But the appeals kept coming. The Torathi, a species enslaved by the Kethran for 2 centuries, begged for military aid. The Gen Collective offered trade agreements if Earth would share Midnight Armada technology. A dozen species offered alliances, resources, territory, anything for Earth's protection. And inside the Kethran Empire, exactly what Whisper of Rain predicted came true. Rebellions erupted on conquered worlds. Kethran military forces, demoralized and scattered, struggled to contain them. The empire began to fracture. Chen watched it all from Earth and felt sick. He sat in his apartment one night, drinking whiskey he couldn't taste, staring at reports of Kethran civilians killed in an uprising on a mining colony. Children, families, people who had nothing to do with the invasion of Earth. His door chimed. Commander Park entered without waiting for permission. She looked as tired as he felt. The Council wants to send peacekeepers to Kethran space, she said. Try to stabilize things. They're asking for your recommendation. Tell them no, Chen said. The Kethran made their choices. The consequences are theirs to live with. That's cold, sir. It's survival. We get involved in their civil wars. We become targets. We become the enemy. Next thing we know, we're an empire ourselves, and some other species is building their own midnight armada to take us down. Park sat down across from him. Can I speak freely? Always. Some of the crew from the midnight ships are having problems. Psychological evaluations show elevated stress, moral injury. They're having nightmares about the Kethran they killed. The ones who surrendered, and we killed anyway, because it was tactically efficient. Chen closed his eyes. He remembered giving that order. The Kethran crew members, who had ejected in escape pods, who had survived their ships exploding, who had begged for rescue, and he had ordered the midnight ships to fire on them anyway because prisoners would slow the operation down. How many? He asked quietly. 347 Kethran, killed after their ships were destroyed. Plus the psychological warfare casualties, Kethran, who died of fear-induced cardiac failure when we broadcast those frequencies. The final count is being disputed because we don't know how many suicides to attribute to our actions. Suicides? Some Kethran couldn't handle what we did to them. The psychological attacks. The sensory manipulation. They killed themselves, rather than face us again. Chen poured himself another drink. Put it in the report. All of it. The council wanted to know what it cost to win. They should know the whole bill. When the POPID, SMB, the hearings began a month later. War crimes, tribunals. Chen was called to testify, along with dozens of Midnight Armada commanders and the scientists who had designed the psychological warfare systems. The prosecution was led by Counselor Vasquez. She presented evidence of international law violations, unnecessary cruelty, executions of surrendering enemies. The hollow videos were damning. Kethran soldiers screaming as human ships broadcast sounds that caused their nervous systems to fire randomly. Escape pods destroyed by calculated missile strikes. Captives held in sensory deprivation for weeks during interrogation. Admiral Chen, Vasquez said, her voice hard. Did you at any point consider that these actions might be illegal under our own laws? Did you consider that you were becoming the very monsters we feared? Chen stood in the witness box and met her eyes. Every single moment of every single day. But I had a choice to make, Counselor. Fight clean and risk losing Earth? Or fight dirty and guarantee we survived? I chose survival. I'd make the same choice again. I'd ride. Reese possible. Even knowing what it cost? Especially knowing what it cost. The trial lasted 3 months. In the end, Chen was cleared of criminal charges but censured for excessive force. Several Midnight commanders were court-martialed. The psychological warfare program was officially discontinued and condemned. But everyone knew the truth. The technology still existed. The knowledge was still there. If Earth was threatened again, they would use it again. One night, Chen received an unexpected visitor. A Kethran officer, young, with golden eyes that burned with intensity. He had been one of the prisoners from the flagship, recently returned to his people. He had requested this meeting through official channels. I wanted to see you, the Kethran said. His name was Thelkos, and his translator made him sound almost human. To ask you a question. 1. Go ahead. My people are conquerors. We have been for 3,000 years. We believe might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. You defeated us using the same philosophy. You were stronger, so you won. You used every weapon you had, without mercy. So my question is this. What makes you different from us? Chen had been asked variations of this question 100 times. Usually, he gave political answers about self-defense and proportional response. But this young officer deserved honesty. Nothing, Chen said. We're not different. We're just on the other side. You came to conquer, and we defended. But given different circumstances, different history, maybe we'd be the empire, and you'd be the resistance. The capacity for violence is in all of us. The only difference is what we choose to do with it. Thelkos stared at him for a long moment. Is that supposed to be comforting? No. The Kethran nodded slowly. My people are divided now. Some want peace with Earth. Others want revenge. I don't know which side will win, but I wanted you to know that we remember what you did. We remember the mercy you showed by returning us alive, and we remember the brutality you used to win. Both things. Always both. After he left, Chen sat alone and thought about weight. The weight of command. The weight of survival. The weight of becoming the thing you fight against. He had saved humanity. That was true. He had also revealed something about humanity that maybe should have stayed hidden. His console chimed. A new message, marked urgent. Another alien species, making first contact. But this one was different. The signature was ancient, powerful, deliberately broadcasting from a location that should have been empty space. The message was in perfect English. Humanity of Earth, you have passed the first test. Now it is time to meet your judges. Chen read it twice and felt his blood run cold. What test? What judges? He sent the message to intelligence for analysis and stared out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, something had been watching. Something older than the Kethran. Something that thought humanity's desperate fight for survival was a test. And apparently, humanity had passed. Chen wasn't sure if that was good news or the worst news possible. The coordinates led to empty space between stars, a region where nothing should exist. Yet when Earth's scout ships arrived, they found a structure. It was massive, perhaps the size of a moon, but clearly artificial. Its surface was covered in patterns that hurt to look at. Geometry that suggested dimensions beyond the normal three. Admiral Chen stood aboard the diplomatic vessel Horizon, watching the structure grow larger on the view screen. Beside him, Commander Park studied the sensor readings with a frown. Whatever that is, it's old, she said. Our dating methods keep giving errors. Thousands of years. Maybe millions. The structure sent another message. Approach. You are expected. The Horizon docked at a port that opened like a flower blooming. Inside, the corridors were built for beings larger than humans. The air was breathable, but smelled strange, like ozone and cinnamon. Lights appeared wherever Chen walked, as if the structure itself was aware of him. They found the council chamber at what felt like the heart of the structure. It was a vast, circular room, and sitting around it were representatives of species Chen had never seen. There were 12 of them. Some looked vaguely humanoid. Others were so alien that Chen's brain struggled to process their forms. One of them, a being that looked like it was made of liquid silver light, spoke. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Welcome, humanity. I am witness to ages, and I speak for the Concord. We have been watching you. For how long? Chen asked. Since you first left your world. Since you first looked at the stars and wondered what was out there. We watch all emerging species. We must. The galaxy is more dangerous than you know. Another being spoke. This one resembled a tree made of crystal, its voice like wind chimes. We are old, humans. We have existed for millions of your years. We have seen thousands of species rise and fall. And we have learned something important. Not all species deserve to survive. Chen felt his diplomatic training kick in, keeping his voice level. That's a harsh philosophy. It is a necessary one. Witness to Ages replied. The galaxy is full of aggressive species. Conquerors like the Kethran. Hive minds that consume everything in their path. Fanatics who believe all other life must be purified. If every species that reached the stars survived, the galaxy would be endless war. So we created a system. A test. The Kethran, Chen said, understanding flooding through him. You let them conquer all those species. You let them become an empire. All so you could see who could stop them. Yes, the Kethran are useful. They are aggressive enough to be a genuine threat, but not so powerful that they are unstoppable. We allowed them to expand, and we watched to see which species could defend themselves. Most could not. They submitted. They were absorbed. They failed the test. Park's voice was tight with anger. You let billions die. You let species be enslaved for centuries. For a test? The crystal being's voice was without emotion. The alternative is worse. If we intervened every time a species was threatened, we would be fighting endless wars ourselves. And we would become the very thing we seek to prevent, an empire that imposes its will on all others. This way, only the strong survive. Only those capable of defending themselves earn the right to exist freely. Chen thought of the Mirathi, enslaved for 400 years. The dozens of species still suffering under Kethran rule. All of it allowed to happen. All of it part of some cosmic test that humanity had stumbled into. So we passed your test, Chen said. What now? What do you want from us? Witness to ages brightened, its form becoming more radiant. We offer you membership in the Concord, a seat at this table, access to our technology, our knowledge, our protection, but membership comes with responsibilities, which are, you must help defend emerging species who show potential. You must help contain aggressive empires before they grow too large. You must sometimes make difficult choices about which species deserve to survive and which do not. In short, you must become what we are, guardians of galactic order. Chen looked around the chamber. 12 species, each one ancient, each one watching him with expressions he couldn't fully read. And if we refuse? Quote, and if we refuse? Then you are on your own, the crystal being said. No protection, no alliance. And there are threats in this galaxy far worse than the Kethran. Threats we currently shield you from. Refuse our offer, and you will face them alone. That sounds like a threat. It is a statement of fact. We are not threatening you. We are offering you a choice. Chen thought of Earth, the Midnight Armada, the price humanity had already paid to survive. Now they were being asked to become galactic enforcers, to make decisions about which species lived and died, to become part of the same system that had allowed the Kethran to enslave billions. I need to consult with my government, Chen said. Of course, you have time. But not infinite time. There are other species watching humanity now. Some with admiration. Some with fear. Some with envy. Your actions against the Kethran have made you visible. The vote on Earth was closer than anyone expected. The Council was divided. Some argued that joining the Concord was humanity's only path to long-term survival. Others called it a betrayal of everything Earth stood for, becoming complicit in the same system that had allowed so much suffering. In the end, it came down to a single question. What would happen to the species still enslaved by the Kethran if Earth refused? The answer came from the Concord itself. If Earth refused membership, the Kethran would be allowed to rebuild. The test would continue. The enslaved species would remain enslaved, perhaps forever. But if Earth joined, they could demand the liberation of those species as a condition of membership. The Concord would support it. The Kethran Empire would be forced to dissolve. It was a choice between idealism and pragmatism, between purity and effectiveness. The Council voted to join. Not unanimously, not happily, but they voted yes. The formal ceremony was held aboard the Concord structure. Admiral Chen represented humanity, accepting the position at the table. The 12th seat, they called it, reserved for species who had proven themselves capable of both strength and mercy. But there were conditions. Earth's conditions. They would join the Concord, but they would not become conquerors. They would defend emerging species, but they would not impose their values on others, and they demanded transparency. No more secret tests. No more allowing empires to rise just to see who could stop them. The Concord, surprisingly, agreed. Perhaps we have been doing this too long, Witness to Ages said. Perhaps we needed new blood, new perspectives. Your conditions are acceptable. The Kethran Empire was given 6 months to free all enslaved species and withdraw to their original star system. They complied. They had no choice. With Earth in the Concord, they were hopelessly outmatched. Admiral Chen returned to Earth as a hero and a villain. Parades were held in his honor. Protests demanded his arrest. He accepted both with the same tired expression. He had done what he thought was necessary. History would judge whether he was right. He retired from active duty and took a teaching position at the military academy. He spent his days training the next generation of officers, teaching them about the Midnight Armada, about the costs of survival, about the weight of difficult choices. One day, a student asked him if he had any regrets. Chen thought about the Kethran he had killed, the psychological warfare victims, the escape pods destroyed, the fear he had weaponized, all the brutality he had unleashed to save his species. Every single choice I made, he said honestly, but I'd make them all again. Because Earth survived. And sometimes survival is all that matters. The Midnight Armada remained in service, but its role changed. Half of it was dismantled as a gesture of peace. The other half was repurposed as a rapid response force, defending emerging species from aggressors. The ships that had been designed to kill Kethran were retooled to fight whoever threatened the innocent. Earth published what became known as the Midnight Doctrine. It was a complete military strategy, so detailed and comprehensive that it served as a deterrent. Any species considering attacking Earth could read exactly how humanity would respond. The complete destruction of their military, the public exposure of all their secrets. Total economic isolation, not occupation, not conquest, just the complete elimination of their ability to make war. It was brutal in its honesty. And because it was public, because everyone knew exactly what would happen, it prevented wars before they started. Years passed. Earth integrated into galactic society. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges began. Humanity discovered they were good at some things: diplomacy, art, innovation, and they were known for one thing above all else. They could not be conquered. They would not submit. And if you threatened them, they would respond with calculated, terrible efficiency. Other species had different reactions to humanity. Some admired them, some feared them, some both. The Mirathi, freed from Kethran rule, became Earth's closest allies. The Kethran themselves, reduced and humbled, slowly rebuilt their culture around peace instead of conquest. And in the darkness beyond Neptune, the remaining midnight ships waited, silent, patient, ready, because humanity had learned the hardest lesson of all. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Love your neighbors, but keep your weapons sharp. Offer friendship freely, but never, ever show weakness. The galaxy had demanded Earth's surrender. In refusing, humanity hadn't just saved itself, it had changed the rules of the game forever. They had proven that new species could challenge old empires. That mercy and ruthlessness weren't opposites but could exist in the same hand. That survival didn't mean submission. Admiral Chen, in his final years, would look up at the stars and think about that moment when he had typed 8 characters that woke the Midnight Armada. He thought about all the choices that had led there, all the costs that followed, and he would remember what he told that young Kethran officer. The capacity for violence lives in all of us. The only difference is what we choose to do with it. Humanity had made their choice. They would defend. They would protect. They would never start a war. But if someone else started one with them, they would finish it. Completely. Decisively. With the cold mathematics of survival, the galaxy understood now. Earth was no longer isolated. They were part of the Concord. They were protected, and they were protectors. But most importantly, they had sent a message that echoed across the stars. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not go quietly into extinction. Try us, and learn what happens when survival becomes our only doctrine. The Midnight Armada sleeps in the dark, but it dreams of Earth, and it is always, always ready.